ladies and gentlemen of the media. My name is Terence Manase. Thank you for blessing us today at this media briefing for the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development. As you are aware, the department will be tabling a budget vote later today, and we thought we should engage with you today on the highlights of the budget vote. We will be led by the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development, as I acknowledge here, the Deputy Minister. We are joined by the Director General of the department as well, and the National Director of Public Prosecutions and her Leadership Collective. As I acknowledge all of you and anyone whom I may have missed, I must apologize, Minister. I'm running this media briefing without wearing a tie. I forgot my tie at home. I realized this morning. I apologize for that. Colleagues, the Minister will make a statement and we'll take a few questions shortly afterwards. Maybe let me not waste time and allow the Minister to take us through. Minister, the floor.
Can I do it from here? Is it fine, or you want me to move that? Because I see their camera, their mics are here, so I don't know what they want. They want me here. Okay, that's fine. Thank you very much, Terence. Good afternoon, colleagues, members of the media, and those who are following us. Let me start first by joining many South Africans in extending our heartfelt condolences to the Mabuza family, comrades, and friends, especially ANC and the people of Mpumalanga. Buti, as affectionately was called by many of us, was a leader who was principled, exercised discipline, and in a soft voice, very firm. He spoke less, but a word from him was firm, decisive, and carried the necessary authority even in our cabinet. Lala ngokuthula mshengu. The purpose of today's media briefing is to share the highlights of the department's 2025-26 budget vote, which myself and the Deputy Minister will shortly be tabling before Parliament on behalf of our portfolio in M26, I think, the room just here in Mark's building. This engagement with you as members of the media and the public serves to provide context to our budget priorities and also to ensure that the public is well informed about the department's planned work in the year ahead. You'd understand that we've presented not only APP, but also our 5-year strategic plan in line with the MDTP. Our budget vote is structured around 9 key themes and reflects our strategic priority and the departmental constitutional mandate. The first area that we focus on is around access to justice. Our work is guided by the principle that all shall be equal before the law. As we will outline in greater detail when we table the budget vote, a key focus of our work is on expanding access to justice by upgrading courts, the master's offices, and the Office of State Attorneys, particularly to better serve poor and vulnerable communities. On the courts, as we transition towards fully independent and single judiciary, we'll be working together with the CJ and team and other judges as part of ensuring that the pronouncements by the president comes to reality. Ladies and gentlemen, what we're talking about in terms of access to justice includes improving the accessibility of our facilities for people with disabilities, investing in digital systems, and developing in collaborative efforts and working together with various stakeholders to respond to the inefficiencies and effectiveness and responsiveness that we need to see in our offices, especially in the master's office. Having experienced the dire situation in relation to our ICT infrastructure, we welcomed Minister Malatsi's proposed approach that could assist us when necessary and justifiably to go directly to the market to get efficient and effective service providers who can help us ensure that our systems works effectively. And if I'm to explain this, we battle with sometimes, most of the time, officials having to explain to the public that our systems are offline, therefore they can't issue a letter of authority in some instances. And this has a huge impact in terms of our work and service delivery to our people. And in just emphasizing that, another area that we'll highlight in our budget It's working in terms of, as I said, the Master's Office turnaround strategy, but also state attorneys. The implementation of the turnaround strategies in these two offices will be through modernization, strategic partnership, and with private sector, and enhancement of staff capacity and accountability, and critically, to rebuilding confidence to those we serve. The management of state litigation is critical to ensure the state doesn't continue to spend a lot of money on unnecessary litigations and default judgments that can be seen. And this because our sister departments continue to raise concerns with us around state litigation and therefore requesting us to improve in terms of our work. Another area that we'll go into detail in the speech, which we want to highlight, is around the combating of gender-based violence and femicide. As the department and the portfolio, all of us have adopted a victim-centered approach aimed at reducing secondary victimization. This includes expanding the footprint of sexual offences court, the Tutuzela care centers, but also ensuring the swift processing of protection orders, which is one of the areas that continues to rear its ugly head, and where communities raise concerns about this not being served timeously and continue to ensure that they feel threatened. We will also look in terms of the legislation that in relation to the National Register for Sexual Offenders and reviewing this legislation to ensure that the register is publicly released. Around fraud and corruption, another key focus area is our fight against fraud and corruption. We will highlight significant recoveries amounting to billions by SIU NPA Asset Forfeiture Unit, demonstrating the impact of our ongoing anti-corruption efforts. The operationalization and increasing efficiencies and capacitation of investigating Directorate Against Corruption IDEC with enhanced digital evidence capabilities will continue. While we are aware of recent developments involving IDEC, we take guidance from the President and will allow space for due process to be followed. Today, what we want to focus on is progress that is made by this critical institution and the work that have been made. Our efforts also include the establishment of dedicated lifestyle audit unit, improved whistleblower protection processes, and legislative reforms to bolster the country's anti-corruption framework and fight, as the President announced during his SONA. In addition, we will share the strides we are making on the global front through our participation in international anti-corruption platforms, but the progress that has been made in the team by the team that has been working, especially critical work that has been done by NPA on FATF matters. On the issue of transformation of the legal sector, we highlighted that the transformation of the sector remains non-negotiable. Our ongoing efforts and process will first be in defending the sector code litigation challenge brought by Norton Rose. We will also be advancing transformation by ensuring that the briefing patterns by the state attorneys as well is addressed, because this is an area that also received a concern from us, from our stakeholders, and those that are saying we must put our money where our mouth is. On the TRC issues, the implementation of a Parliament-approved report on TRC remains critical and necessary as part of healing our nation. We give progress report in this budget vote on this work. We further welcome the appointment of the Commission of Inquiry led by retired Justice Sisi Khampempe, and will do our utmost best as the department to ensure support for this inquiry and the commission. We also, as the department, continue to commit in review of colonial and apartheid era legislation. In this financial year and in our speech, we'll outline the work that is being done to ensure that we remain within our goal to build a more inclusive and just legal framework, particularly for women, children, and people with disability. We commit this year to review of colonial and apartheid era legislation, aiming to align outdated laws with the values of the 1996 Constitution. This work has started in earnest, and we did first receive a letter from the Deputy President highlighting that we need to indicate which laws are still outstanding. So in this year, we're looking at ensuring that those that are no longer relevant, we can do perhaps an omnibus bill that can come and abolish all those legislation, and therefore the ones that needs minor reviews will be able to do, and those that needs extensive review will be started the process in terms of consultation. In building a capable state and legal skills development, we're committing this year to strengthening human capital in legal sector, which we believe remains critical. This includes specialized training in prosecutions, cybercrime, legal interpretations, and gender-based violence through our reimagined Bridget Mabandla Justice College. Just to highlight, the budget allocation of our department stands at 25.3 billion, which is broken as follows. The budget includes 13 billion for employees, compensation of employees, 5.4 for goods and services, 3.5 billion in transfers to entities and other institutions within our portfolio, 2.6 billion for magistrate salaries, and 652 for capital assets. We will acknowledge, ladies and gentlemen, that this is not sufficient, and that's why we are committed to doing more with less, but hoping that as we engage National Treasury going forward, this portfolio would be looked at differently, because it does need for us to be able to respond to the challenges that has been raised by the community, by communities and our stakeholders. And more importantly, we remain committed to using public funds effectively and delivering impact-driven services. This budget reflects our unwavering commitment to restorative justice, modernization, and social redress. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister. Colleagues, just a note to say that the statement is now circulating. For clarity, if you missed any point, you should be able to pick it up from there. At this moment, let me allow for questions from the floor. Please introduce yourself and the media house that you represent, and yeah, let's take it from there. I see a hand already.
Thank you. Todd, yours Business Day. Minister, I just wanted to know, what is the rationale in the budget behind increased funding towards the NPA, given the lack of conviction in many high-profile corruption cases, and how is the department going to ensure
the mic? Bring the mic closer.
Get closer to the mic.
Is this better?
That's
Yes.
better, yeah.
Okay. Todd, yours Business Day. Minister, I just wanted to know, what was the rationale behind increased funding towards the NPA, given the lack of high corruption cases, the lack of convictions in high-profile corruption cases, and how does the department plan on making sure that this increased funding results in improvements rather than just increased spending?
Okay.
Good afternoon, Minister. Apologies, I'm Kevin Grant from ENCA. I'd just like to know, the Parliament earlier issued a statement saying that the Justice and Constitutional Development Committee, along with police and intelligence, will now look into the claims made by the KZN Police Commissioner. Just a comment from you, Minister, seeing that in particular the conduct of police that works very closely with justice is now in the spotlight.
Do we have any other hand? In the absence of hands, let's allow the minister to respond.
Thank you very much. Let me start with the question from Business Day. The rationale of increasing funding towards NPA is mainly to ensure that we support NPA to be able to do its work. If we look at the work that has been done, for example, by Asset Forfeiture Unit, in the last financial year, the commitment was that we'll do, and the NDPPs here will highlight around the performance, because sometimes in the public domain, we do have this notion that NPA is not performing. It's not true. There might be one or two cases that we are losing, or the prosecutors are losing in court, but generally there's daily many prosecutions that are happening. Otherwise, these courts would not be full. The prisons will not be full. We're seeing the results of prisons being full is because there's been successful prosecution. And sometimes, and I said this previously, that we look at cases that relate to what we would call high-profile cases, one or two, or delay in terms of some of the areas. But when we look at factually, how many cases? Nulan case went to court, it was lost, they appealed, they won it. So we can't put it as a lost case. The issue is to say where we've been as a strategy, prosecutors deciding that because there's information that we are getting, therefore let's withdraw. What we must track, and I said to NDPP and the team, let's start tracking those to see how many have been enrolled. And I think the public would do better to do those as well. Weekly, what we have started, especially just on sexual offences cases, weekly we are releasing the number of judgments in a week to say this 5 sentences. If you look at it, life sentences and all that. So it's quite a number that you see. We can't use only Omotoso case that has been lost and say all cases that relates to gender-based violence are being lost. Yes, it's a big one. It's one we hoped that we could have seen prosecution, but there are many other people who are finding justice. And part of why we want to support NPA, and it should be supported by South Africans, is because in a number of courts, there are many prosecutors who need capacity in terms of support for their administrative capacity. We need to employ more prosecutors across advocates that are going to deal with this. They need more money on specialized areas and all other areas. So there's quite a lot that we need to do with NPA. You can't want successful prosecution, but you're not prepared to put money in support. So we do, even what we have is not even enough. Because when we look at the salaries, there's issues of adjustment of salaries. When we look at the numbers, they've advertised so many posts, more than 200 posts that have been advertised, needs to be filled, and we must continue with that route. Section 38 appointments that needs to be done in support of IDEC needs money. So it's those things that the money, I do believe that it's worth it. It's a good investment towards the right direction. So that's what I can say. On the issue, question from ENCA, Kevin, on the issue of the speaker's letter, we welcome it. We do think that an approach that is coordinated, that can interrogate further, will assist all of us. So we welcome the developments, the announcement that involves, because you note that, that's what I'm saying, for example, IDEC remains one of the most critical institutions fighting crime and corruption, fighting corruption in particular, fraud and corruption, and would want to see it not be dragged negatively in terms of its work. But we are saying where there are allegations, they must be tested. They must be investigated so that we clear the air. And that's why we welcome this development by the Speaker. And we are ready as a portfolio, all of us, ready to appear before the committee where we can be asked questions, we'll be ready to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Let me check to see if we have any questions online. Do we have anything on the WhatsApp platform? Okay, nothing so far. Any other hands from the floor? I think, Minister, your statement was clear, and I think this will bring us to the end of this. Unless if the Minister has anything else that they want to add, the DM.
If they don't have questions, I'm done.
Okay. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the media, we have come to the end of our media briefing. Thank you for blessing us with your presence, and thank you to the leadership as well for the clarity and for the information that they shared. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you.